Hello, hello. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to whoever is online and we'll be seeing these later. I am Nabila Sonia Thames from the Yoga Meditation and Wellness Center, coming in live today with an interview of a master sound healing practitioner and trainer, Mr. Bill Sullivan. Hang on tight while I get him in on the line. Just a moment. Hello, hello, Alchemist Poet. Hello, Nicole. Mr. Z Know-How. Thank you for joining. I will have my guest on shortly. I've already sent the invite. We're going to be talking all about sound healing today, different instruments, what they do, why they do what they do. Hi, Bree. And hello, Bill. Let's see where you are on here. Hello, Nicole. Bill, if you can see, well, I'm sure you can see me. I am trying to get you in on the call. Let's see, how do I do that? Guys, bear with me. It's been a moment since I did this IG live thing with a guest, and I'm trying to figure out how to get him in. It's unable to join. Okay, I'm going to send the invite again. Let's see if that connects. It should. This IG live thing with a guest, and I'm trying. There he goes.
Hello there.
Hey, how are you?
Good, I made it.
You made it. It worked.
It did. I don't know what this other little thing is over here, but
I know. There's lots of things. Like, there's things, and if we don't use these things, we don't really know what they do.
I don't know what it's doing, but there's a good. That thing went away, so now it's just you and me. How
It's
are you?
just you and me. Awesome. So good to see you.
Good to see your smiling face again.
Yes, yes. I always see you on your posts regularly, but you have your nice little guru face on when you're giving the certificates.
Guru face, yes.
Well, that's what it is in my head. It's you have such a serenity and a calmness and a peacefulness around you that it's just like guru face.
Guru face. Well, today I have my everyday face on, so here we are. Everyday face.
Okay. Awesome. Welcome. And thank you for all those who are online with us right now and those who will be watching this later. I have a really special guest here with me today, Mr. Bill Sullivan of Meditate You. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Yes. So everybody might be wondering, what's this all about? So we're going to be talking sound healing and mindfulness and meditative practices. We're going to do a little short interview. Can you please tell us about yourself?
Well, as you said, my name's Bill. I'm with Meditation School of Mindfulness here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, is where our main location is. I've been in this practice for quite a long time, and a little over, I don't know, maybe 8 years now, I really started digging into the practice of sound and how we added that into our meditative practice and how I was able to use that. So for myself, coming into the field of mindfulness and meditation, it was a transformation that I went through in the middle of my life. And I had such a passion and connection to it that I started to, I studied it and then started to teach it. Most of what I did when I first went into it was working one-on-one with clients in the coaching field. And my field was addiction, working with addiction and how mindfulness can really help anyone struggling with addiction to take a step back and get out of the habitual ways they were going through their life. And I had such a connection to it that as I continued to grow my practice and expand, working with people with relationship issues and PTSD and other things, all these different ways we can bring different practices of mindfulness into it. What sound really offered me was an opportunity to share the practice of mindfulness without even have to call it meditation, because when beautiful instruments, which people are drawn to, they don't know they're in that space of going into a deep meditation. So we can invite them into these beautiful sessions, these sound healing sessions, or whatever we call them, and offer them that opportunity to turn off the overactive mind and relax the tension in the body and open up that opportunity to perhaps shift the perspective or just
Mm-hmm.
trigger the body to go into recovery mode instead of always
Yes.
at stress mode. So as I continue to study that and grow, I just found again a passion with that and connecting the practices together. And about half a dozen years ago, decided to open a school because I found I listened to the community that said, "I want to know more. I want to know more. Teach me, teach me, teach."
Mm-hmm.
Me."
Mm-hmm.
We started with a small workshops and then we expanded and then we started doing level one practitioner. Now we have master practitioner, master teacher. And so we've expanded our offerings for everything we do, but sound is like that secret baby that I love so much because it
Yes.
just reaches deep into the core, deep into the soul. So here we are now. In the past couple of years, we've expanded and we have affiliates in different places in Sarasota, in England, in Los Angeles, in Detroit, in Columbus, and yeah. And so now we're coming up to Atlanta next month, and we're hoping that
Yes.
we get a foothold there. That really is my family is in Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta for 7 years before I moved down to Florida. And I
Mm-hmm.
love Atlanta. I lived in the north part of Atlanta, and my
Mm-hmm.
family live up in the Alpharetta area and Roswell area. So I'm happy to be going back home and actually going back home to do some of what I love to do. So melding the two together.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I mean, it has been such a treat for me. I have to share how I connected with Bill. It was actually from a Facebook post promoting a class he had in Florida. And I really started delving into sound about 5 years ago. I found myself very drawn to different instruments, but I'm gonna say natural element instruments more so than guitars and pianos. I was drawn to drums and tuning forks and things that we don't traditionally think of as musical instruments. But I was drawn to sound, and I started just one at a time. Every few months, some new thing was randomly popping into my mailbox, and my husband goes, "What do you get now? What's that?" So I started really being inquisitive, researching, took a course online, and then when I came across the ad for your class in Florida, I thought, well, that's not too far. I'll fly there. And so I got my second certification in sound healing there, although my first with Meditate You. And I have to say, it was such a phenomenal experience to be totally immersed in the different sounds, the different instruments, seeing, hearing, feeling, more feeling it than anything else.
Right.
There's no substitute for that, which is why whenever we do the sound baths at my studio, we typically have a full house now that people are out and about.
Yes, it's really,
So,
as you just said, the feeling part of it is what it's really all about. It goes from, there's one thing about hearing, but it's a whole other thing when you feel it deep at your core and your whole body feels the vibration and how I like to imagine it's almost like all those vibrations are in there shaking up the stuff and
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
barriers and the stuff that's getting in the way. And it can't be duplicated. It can't be duplicated online. It can't be duplicated anywhere. We can
mm-mm.
do some, and there is a benefit to doing it online if that's the only option you have.
If that's the only option, yeah,
Like the difference between going to a listening to something on the radio and going to a live concert. In that,
absolutely.
feel the energy, and you start to go with the flow. And that really is what our whole practice is about: is to connect to the vibration.
Yes, yes.
Because the vibrations really connect to us, and the entrainment part of it, how our whole body starts to get into the rhythm, to get into the
Get into the rhythm. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
that's what it's
I
all.
u- Yeah, I usually like to explain to clients or people who've never heard of it or who don't really even know what it's all about, that the effect that the sound has, I mean, it scientifically can be explained, talking about the different brainwave states that we are in right now when we get a little bit relaxed and we get deeply relaxed and then we fall asleep.
Right.
Our brainwave activity is shifting from one pattern to the next. But the way I explain it, where it hopefully makes sense, and it seems to for most lay people who just don't know what it's all about, is that I say it's kind of like ironing wrinkled clothes. The sounds from the instruments just go and iron the wrinkles out of whatever, wherever, because sound touches every single part of our being,
I love that.
every single part. So, and most of the time they come out of curiosity, and most people are familiar with how their mood changes when they listen to certain music or certain songs or sounds. So it seems to be one of those healing modalities that it just kind of pulls you in.
Right. Yes, you can't help but be pulled into, because the truth is, in the midst of a sound bath, you can't escape it. So you're in there, and it's
You're
going to,
in there.
whether there's resistance or not. And the
Mm-hmm.
resistance is what gets most of us in trouble, and that's what causes our suffering. We're resisting the healing energy that's always available to us. We're resisting
Mm-hmm.
the innate ability that we have deep within our soul to heal ourselves. Well,
Yes.
it gets in there and it says, "Hey, look at me. I'm shaking."
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It was amazing being at the live course. One of the things that I had not experienced before was the things you did, different um, tuners you have for the gong. You had this whole assortment of random things which created these incredible sounds
Yeah.
out of the gong, and that really stuck with me.
Yeah. So many times when you see somebody playing the gong, all you see them doing is hitting it with a mallet. And that's
Hmm. Hmm.
resonance, and it creates beautiful vibration. But there's so much more to those instruments, and it is all about vibration. And when we can use those mallets, you can call them friction mallets.
Mallet. Yes.
They're all generally made out of rubber and different hardness of rubber, different size of rubber, and how when we pull them across the surface of a gong, they make the vibration of the gong change. And sometimes it can feel like it sounds like dolphins, or
Hmm.
it sounds like
It
a lot of
did.
people put labels on it. But one of the things we're trying to do is let go of the identification with it or something, and just feel the vibration. So at
Yeah.
first, some of those mallets might even sound like aliens or something,
Hmm.
kind of screechy, but if you just allow the vibrations to come in, the gong itself, which is a huge metal object that has such beautiful harmonics in all the different ways we can engage that gong to do different things,
Hmm.
it blows your mind. Most of the time, most people are laying down with their eyes closed, and they don't even know that that's a gong. Some people
Yeah.
have a radio on or something you're creating some electric
Yeah.
from, but when I can show them it came from the gong, they're like, "Wow, that's amazing."
They're like, wow, that's incredible. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just one of many. Like I said, I had experienced sound baths in different ways. Often it would be one particular instrument, and maybe people have experienced that where it was just crystal bowls or just the Himalayan bowls. But one of the things that I really learned, and I'm not going to say I mastered it, but I took ownership of it, was putting all my bits and pieces together to create this harmonic sequence of sounds that takes each person on a completely different journey.
Right,
Um, because you're experiencing it how you're feeling it. And for some, it can be really emotional. It brings up stuff that people may not even have known was there, that they didn't really even know there were things, and it's so authentic and so gentle how it just works through it. You don't have to talk.
right.
I find that often people drift into this deep, restful sleep, and some are even snoring.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm a trained hypnotherapist, and so much of what we're doing in a sound bath connects to the practice of hypnotherapy, or if you've ever experienced yoga nidra, and how that
hmm.
relaxing practice of getting down into the depths of the mind, turning off the overthinking mind, slowing down those brainwave patterns, and getting into those spaces of pure conscious awareness where it feels like you've drifted to sleep, but you're always aware of what's going on, and you're still receiving the vibration and
Yes,
the information. So it truly is, for a lot of people, it's a new place to be.
it
They
is.
don't realize it. And what we're really doing in sound is we're doing it intentionally, because we
Yes.
all experience those moments of bliss. Unfortunately, not as often as we'd like, but as we go through our life, those moments where
Yeah.
we're sitting on the beach watching a sunrise or a sunset, or having a walk in the woods, or listening to our favorite song, and we close our eyes and we just feel ourselves be carried away.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
intentionally in a sound bath, we're doing it for the reason of relaxation, of tension relief, of healing. And that's really what gets to the whole foundation of what we teach, is that sound plus intention is healing. And
It's
that's
healing.
about.
Yeah, it is. It's powerful. I mean, anyone who's listening who has not experienced a sound bath, please run to the nearest sound bath location near you, which
Right.
I'm really, really happy and proud to say in our Lilburn, Lawrenceville area in Georgia, we offer a class. Right now it's twice a month, but we're working towards making it a weekly or maybe even twice a week. However, we do have a lot of clients who book a one-on-one sound bath, and some add it to their massage, or they can just come in for the sound bath. It's really quite amazing. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, and maybe you could shed some more insight into this, is that because we are helping the client shift into this rest and recovery state and coming out of fight or flight, that is where the body repairs itself. That's where the immune system rebuilds and reboots itself. Can you put some more meat on that, please?
So if you think about how most of us are going through our life in that fight or flight mode, where we're all tense and and how the mind, what it really does is it shifts the body into that space where we either need to run like heck or stand and fight. But and that was important back in the caveman days when we were out hunting,
Right.
gathering our own food. But in this day and age, our mind, our body doesn't know the difference between a tiger jumping in your path or a deadline that I didn't meet at work. So we have this same physiological response in our body. But in the old days, when we were confronted with danger and we either ran or fought, the danger
Mm-hmm.
would dissipate and we'd go about our day. But now that chronic stress gets carried for days, months, years, all of our lives. So what that does to the body is difficult because it puts us in a tension space. But what it does to the
Mm-hmm.
mind is what really is the problem. It closes us off from the most creative parts of ourselves, the part
Mm-hmm.
that can connect to the intuitive parts of ourselves, the true healing
Mm-hmm.
that we have within ourselves. So we never
Mm-hmm.
the recovery mode. Even when we sleep, when we're stressed,
Yeah.
we get so tired we fall asleep, but we don't sleep as deep in recovery spaces.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So in this practice of sound, or in the practice of deep meditation or yoga nidra, a 45-minute session is said to be like 3 hours of restful recovery sleep, and you get out of it just feel
Absolutely.
restored. Maybe you feel tired at first, but then once you start going about your day, it's like, wow, I feel energized.
Yes.
Thing that you do, it really gets into the whole premise of what mindfulness is all about, is what
Mm-hmm.
grows stronger. So the more you practice going into these deep spaces of relaxation, you're reminding yourself that that's our natural state of being. So then
Absolutely.
over and over again, when you put your head down on your pillow, some nights all of a sudden you remember that and like, wow, you actually sleep better, you actually recover.
Right.
And so
Right.
all about making a shift and understanding we have an opportunity to shift and practice something different. We should
Mm-hmm.
never be stuck in that stress spot, but we need to have the tools that we need to discover the tools that we can use to turn it off, to shut down the stress mode,
Absolutely.
right? And that's what sound helps us do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It does. Well, because think about the effect sound has when you hear a crying baby, even if it's not your child, it grabs your attention.
Right.
And if you have kids or you've had kids, it immediately puts you in a tense, pay alert, take notice, or you might get irritated, like somebody make that baby stop, or why is this person here with the baby? Like you go through all these thoughts and triggers just because of that sound.
Right.
Whereas when you hear something that's more soothing or calming, most people automatically start shifting, like the ambience in a spa, like
Of course.
listening to soft running water or whatever is calming. Immediately your physiology shifts because it's responding to that. And that's the same way that our bodies, once we consciously, mindfully say, I'm going to receive a sound bath, I'm going to listen, it just goes into that, okay, let's receive this.
Exactly. Because we do have this habitual mind that when it discovers something, you do it a couple of times, then it remembers what it feels like, and you don't. And that's why when you do a sound bath or a meditation or anything of these practices over and over and over again, you go deeper into them because you've already gone through the process of understanding. And you're so
Yes.
what you're doing is you're building that neural pathway in the mind that overwrites the old program, and it says,
Mm-hmm.
"Good, I'm going to do that." And you start getting deeper and deeper down more quickly, and that's why over
Yes.
time those who attend our sound baths over and over again really get into the deepest spaces where they feel like
Yeah.
floating or they feel enlightened or
Yes.
yeah. And in those moments they might feel like they're snoring, and they might be snoring because their whole body just gets so relaxed, and their that movement, that deep breathing, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
the vibration comes through your throat that is really a snore, but it's also
Yeah.
relaxing and it's okay.
Yeah, it's it's always funny to me during the sound baths how people shift into that effortlessly. And I mean, typically the sound bath isn't more than about 45 minutes, but they're so amazed. They're like, I never fall asleep this easily. And yet I was there and then I was gone. So it's really quite amazing. So a couple of things that I want to ask, what is, or do you have a favorite instrument? And what is that?
My favorite instrument right now, and it does shift as I get, go through different times, is really I have a new symphonic gong, which is a
Mm.
full polished, brilliant symphonic gong, which is it does some amazing things for me, and I've been really practicing on it and getting better and better at it. I've had many gongs over the years, and this one just seems to really have connected deep into my soul.
Deep into your soul. Okay.
Wanting it for a long time, and when I finally bought it, it was just like, this is the right thing for me. So, but I also feel such a connection to the to what a gong can do in a sound bath that is different than all the other instruments, because it is said that the sound of a gong when you first hit it takes you back to that very first note, that
The
right,
primordial sound.
the primordial sound. Now we can use that gong to make other sounds, but
Right.
but then it also says, unlike, so for instance, a set of crystal singing bowls vibrates and touches on all of the different chakra nodes, but the gong contains all of those within it. So you're
Hmm.
impacting all of the chakras, all of the koshas, all of the everything in the body with the
Wow. In one instrument.
right. And so
Okay.
there's a beauty in it, and there's a reason why it's used in Kundalini yoga. There's a reason why it's used in such amazing practices, and it's been around for centuries and centuries.
Hmm. Hmm. I believe that if I remember well, it's said to be one of the very first musical instruments created.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it does go way back.
And if you try to research the history of it, and what's really amazing of most people think it's a Chinese instrument, or it's a Tibetan instrument, but really there's historical notes of it existing in ancient Egypt and in Greece and in Germany, which wasn't Germany at the time, whatever they called it back then.
Right, right.
But
Whatever it was called then. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
so but all of these, but there are other instruments that have been around for centuries and centuries and centuries. But the gong is one that it's almost difficult to trace when the first gong was created and how it came into being.
And how it came into being. Yeah. We just know what it does and we love it.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would say mine, it shifts, as you know, you find a new toy and you spend a lot of time with it. But I recently got some solfeggio pipes.
Ah,
They're really chimes, but they're made with these, and it is just
hmm.
it just does something. I don't even know what to say. It's amazing.
I look forward to.
So yes, so and I like that I can move around with it, around each person and kind of sweep the auric field and the energetic body as well. I don't know. Sometimes I get these images in my head as I work, and then when we speak afterwards, they're like, "Oh yeah, and I felt you here, and you were doing this." I'm like, "Wow, I was near you, but I wasn't doing that." So it's amazing how, as lying there as a receiver, it interprets different. So
Yeah, yeah, because the
mhm.
mind takes you in all different ways, especially in those deep, um, unconscious, subconscious spaces. And you're almost in that dreamlike space where you're skipping along the surface of trance, and
Mhm.
awakens the dreamlike parts of the mind that yeah, it's really pretty amazing.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
So let's talk a little bit about mindfulness and then tell us about the courses you offer.
sure. So the practice of mindfulness, getting back to what I said before, it led me into my own space of transformation, practicing being present. What we really miss a lot in our daily life is that in and of itself, being fully present in the moment. We spend too much time thinking about the future, worrying about what's coming next, having all
Hmm.
expectations and saying, if I don't do this, I'm not going to do that.
Right, right.
Doing that, then what are we doing? We're thinking about the past, or we're going, oh, if only I would have done this differently, if only I had done that differently. Then the other thing a lot of us do is we worry so much about what people think about us, and we get in that space of needing approval. So mindfulness allows us to come back into ourselves. And it's
Hmm.
self-centered practice. It's not selfish
Hmm.
because when we take care of ourselves, we have more to give to others. So that's important to remember.
Absolutely.
But it gives us that opportunity to say, here I am. And mindfulness leads us into the present moment and eventually moves us to this space of acceptance that says, who I am today is the result of who I have been. Every
Hmm.
on every place I've ever been, every person I've ever met, even the mistakes have made me who I am. And I have to
Exactly.
accept it because I can't go back and change it. But you know
Hmm.
what I can do is I can change where I go next. But we
Where
have
you go
to the
next. Yeah.
present because we can't change the past and we don't know what we're going to be doing in the future. So the only time we can truly empower ourselves to change is in the present.
It's in the present.
So mindfulness is this practice of training ourselves to come back into the present over and over again through different
Hmm.
like sound, like yoga nidra, like meditation. And meditation in and of itself is the most used practice of mindfulness. And people teach it, I don't want to say wrong, but differently. The practice of meditation isn't about turning your mind off. It's not always about enlightenment. What it is really about is paying attention in the present without judgment or expectation. So when you're sitting in the present, thinking about your breath, and if your mind takes you away, you come back. It's
Hmm.
going to take you away. I don't care how long you've been meditating, but you're sitting in meditation and all of a sudden something pops into your mind and it pulls you away.
Hmm.
Focus should be to come back. If you're thinking about your breath or if you're doing a meditation on chakra or something else, you come back to that. And what
Hmm.
that is doing is building this muscle of focus that says, wait a minute, I'm coming back. Because we're
Hmm.
distracted by our thoughts and we have thousands and thousands of thoughts every day, but they're just thoughts. We
Hmm.
also get distracted by our emotions, and we are emotional beings, but so many times we get caught up in those emotions and we start identifying ourselves by those emotions.
By the emotions,
But
yes.
a thought is just a thought, and an emotion is a feeling. It doesn't
Hmm.
identify who I am. So we come back into the present and say, here I am now. Then
Hmm.
determine with that in the present, what do I do with all this information? So meditation should be an intentional practice, not just to turn off the mind. And it shouldn't be just something we put on our to-do list and say, I checked that off. It's 8 o'clock. I meditated. No, we should for a reason. And so what it is getting back into the present and say, the truth is what you practice grows stronger. And in this moment, I get to choose what I'm going to practice today.
Right.
Now we can either do that intentionally or it's going to happen
Or
unintentionally.
it's going to happen. Right.
So most of us, a lot of people, how many people do you know, wake up in the morning, pick up their phone, start scrolling through their emails and look at all the stuff they have to do today? Well, what is that triggering your mind to do? I'm going to be busy today. I'm
I'm
going to,
going to be busy. I'm going
or
to be thinking about it all day.
all day long, right? So think about how different it would be if you take a moment and pause and breathe and do a simple meditation and you focus on something about what am I grateful for today?
Hmm.
What a shift that would be, right? Or what is it
Hmm.
I want to practice today? What do I want to see more of in my day? And maybe it's something like patience. So you can breathe into that patience and say, I'm going to be patient today. Even when
Hmm.
this person's going to push my buttons, I'm going to say, I'm going to be patient. And so that gives
Hmm.
us an opportunity to set the stage for how we're going to move through our day. And that's what meditation
Hmm.
allows us to do. Then, with practice, as you get more and more comfortable with it, you dig deeper into it. And it becomes a really
Hmm.
insightful practice where you start recognizing where those emotions are coming from, where those thoughts,
Right.
and then putting them in perspective and saying, why am I not practicing things that really matter? So, what I
Hmm.
really believe mindfulness is, and I wish we would change the name more to heartfulness, is to get out of our head and
Hmm.
come into this heart space to
Come
focus
into the heart space. Yes.
because we're so focused on the things that don't matter. But if we could come back into the heart and think about love and compassion and forgiveness and joy and gratitude, how different would our life be? And so that's really what I believe meditation is about. And there are a lot of teachers who teach it differently, but this is the way I do it. And this is, I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
the right way, but this is how we teach it. And it seems to be resonating because we've done pretty well through the years of developing our school and developing teachers and practitioners. And what it really is getting back to is coming back to that self and empowering ourselves to wake up and say, this is my life. I can't live my life in this space of blaming others for all the things that happen,
Mm-hmm.
in that place of being offended by everything that's happening in the world, in that space of wishing everything was different, because I could spend all my life wishing things were different, but wishing isn't a good business plan. So I come back into
It is not. It doesn't bear any fruits at all.
so it's again, what am I going to do with that information? To come into that space of acceptance and say, who do I need to protect myself from? Who do I need to give space to? And who can I move into that space of aligning myself with? And I think that in of itself leads back to the whole practice of sound, because we know through the study of sound that there are sounds that resonate with each other, and then there are sounds that
Mm-hmm.
resonate with each other. Well, if everything in the universe is vibrational and we are putting out this vibration, this sound, there are people that we connect with and we resonate with, and there are people that we conflict with.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we try to force ourselves to connect with the people that we aren't meant to connect with, and that causes suffering. So we go into that space and say, I see you. I don't agree with you. I don't get your vibe. I don't want to know.
Right. Right.
Protect myself from you, but I'm going to let you be yourself. You go do you.
You be you. Right.
And if you don't bother me, I won't bother you. Right?
Right.
So that's what mindfulness allows us to do. And what really is, a lot of the stuff I just said that is a lot of theory that's been around for centuries. But now the science matches that. The science shows that through the practice of meditation, we empower the parts of our mind that really do dig into the spaces of compassion, that make us,
Mm-hmm.
that open our hearts and release the tension and the stress that we're so used to carrying around. And the other thing it does through neuroplasticity is that what you do, what you practice grows stronger. We
Right.
rewrite the programming of the mind. And instead of doing this today, I'm going to do that. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
we use it in the practice in an addiction space, in a transformational space, to say we're all stuck in our addictions. We all have addictions. Now there are good addictions and bad addictions, but
Mm-hmm.
it's the power, it's the practice of the mind. Look, if I didn't have an addictive mind, every day when I was driving to work, I'd have to look at a map to remember how to get to work. But
Exactly.
I get to work. But then sometimes we get stuck in the bad habits, the things that we shouldn't be doing, the things that aren't healthy. But through the practice of the practice of meditation, we can impact the mind to choose something different. So, say for instance,
Mm-hmm.
someone came to me to quit smoking, and they've been smoking since they were teenagers, and we can talk about why and how. And but if they truly want to change, and we give them a tool to do something different instead of picking up that cigarette, maybe breathe, maybe just meditate for a moment. After you do that for a while, eventually that mind is going to trigger you to meditate instead
To
of smoke,
meditate.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like I'm oversimplifying it, but that really is what happens. It just takes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that we're doing is empowering people to take control of their life.
Yes.
We're all
Yeah.
taught, well, not all of us, but a lot of us are taught, we're really guided to that place where we grow up, we get through school, we go out in the world as young adults. But is there anybody out there teaching us to wake up and own your life? Wake up and say, this is my life, and I get to choose what I'm going to do with it. I can't always choose my circumstances, but most of the time I can choose how I'm going to respond to them. And that's where the practice comes in. This is my life. Yeah.
That's I mean, you've just said so much. I hope people get to watch this and really let it sink in and digest, because I would say one of the things, like you mentioned, we all have addictive patterns, and some may just not be working out for us. But one that for me was really a true thing, that getting a hold of it and understanding really helped me, was being able to identify the things that were triggers. And the things that were triggers would cause me to behave in a certain way or have a certain thought process. And
Right.
it was like over and over happening in different scenarios. And that's part of that addictive pattern, which it's really a matter of habit as opposed to a matter of judgment,
Right.
because from a society standpoint, when we hear the word addiction or addictive patterns or addictive behaviors, we automatically assume some kind of drug addiction, sex addiction, food addiction, or whatever you want to fill in the blanks with. But really, we're just creatures of habit. And this whole conversation is about incorporating newer, healthier. They're really not new habits. They might just be new to us.
Right.
Incorporating sound into managing a stressful situation. It could be something as simple as just snapping your finger. That's a mindfulness activity right there.
Yes.
In that moment, you might shift your focus from something that was stressing you out into something else. And that's really what this conversation is about, shifting from noticing what the triggers are, where you are, recognizing where you are, whether you're stressed or you're happy or you're sick, whatever, recognizing that and wanting more and better, and then being able to get it for yourself.
Right.
I hope that this information really empowers everybody listening. So what courses do you offer in person, and which ones do you offer virtually? Because you have some really amazing stuff virtual.
Yes, we do a lot of different programs, and with COVID last year, it pushed us into that space where we offer almost everything we do online now, virtually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as we talked, sound done virtually is quite different than sound in person. But let's start with that. So we have a program. It's a level 1 practitioner program, which was what you attended down here in Fort Lauderdale, and we do those quite regularly. Every month we have two of those sessions, and they're either done here in Fort Lauderdale, in Sarasota, in Clearwater. We have one coming up in Atlanta on August 21st and 22nd, and then we have
Mm-hmm.
some other locations coming up. So basically, that in-person 2 day, it's really an immersive practice, but it's also,
Mm-hmm.
and it's 2 days. But then we've also added, in addition to the 2 days you spend here, is a 12-module online course to reinforce what you study over those
Mm-hmm.
2 days, because we throw a lot of information in the midst of experiencing 4 different types of sound baths where your mind is relaxed, but at the same time we're trying to get it to learn. So
Yeah.
work to take home with you to keep studying that. So that's a level 1. We've created what we're calling a master series, which is level 2 and 3. Well, it's really 1 through 3, but you can, if you've already taken level 1, you can join in level 2 and 3. Level
Mm-hmm.
is an online virtual course that is 12 modules that includes so many. It takes level 1 and deepens it. It goes into all the different uses of gongs and bowls and in stuff that you don't have time to sit for hours and hours in front of somebody teaching it. You do it at your
Mm-hmm.
pace. It goes into the science of it and teaches the true science of entrainment and all the other pieces that go with that. It teaches
Mm-hmm.
the practice of Yoga Nidra, and built within Module 2 is a certification as a Yoga Nidra teacher, and how we bring Yoga Nidra and sound together and how explosively immersive and relaxing that is.
Mm-hmm.
And so level 2 is all virtually done at your own pace online. And then level 3 is a 4 day in-person master peace program that we are doing here in Fort Lauderdale. And hey, it's worth it to come down to Fort Lauderdale because it's a beautiful place to be, but it's also 4 days of truly immersing. And by the time you've done level 1 and 2, you're pretty experienced in the practice of sound. You've
Yes.
by then doing sound baths, doing different programs, maybe individual sound healing. So to master that, we get into this space where what we are taking is the student becomes the teacher. So it's
Mm-hmm.
all about creating teachers. Those
Yes.
take the program, all the information that they learned, and go out and teach it wherever they are. That's my goal in everything I do, is to create teachers, because I know the power of the practices that we're teaching. And I know deep down inside, I want to change the world, but I can't do it myself. So I see
Yes.
every teacher that I empower, inspire, is like dropping a pebble in the pond and the ripples spread out across the world. So the more
Absolutely.
teachers we create, the more power we have to change the world. So
Right.
that's the Master Sound program, which is, I have such a passion for that, obviously. But I have a passion for everything else I do. As I mentioned, I also teach and certify teachers in Yoga Nidra, in the practice of Yoga Nidra. We have a level 1 and a level 2 in that. And that's also done in person here in Fort Lauderdale, but we also offer that online because it's something that
Okay.
could be studied and practiced. It's not so vibrational, it's more guided. Then the
Yes. Yes.
piece of what we do is we call it Master of Mindfulness. And the Master of
Mm-hmm.
Mindfulness program is a 4 month intensive program that immerses our students in a transformational space. where we're guiding them through every level that we've discovered in the practice of mindfulness, from the awareness piece to radical acceptance, to gratitude, to love, to mindful stress reduction, to forgiveness and grief, and holding coaching sessions and leading meditations, and all these amazing tools that we provide going through that 4-month journey. And by the time you get to the end of that, we
Mm-hmm.
see you teaching and coaching from a place of your own transformation. So you're
Mm-hmm.
doing these things from experience, rather than a lot of coaches and teachers are teaching from a book. No, we're teaching from our own transformation. So that program is 4 months, and in that program, as I said, every module goes deeper and deeper into the practice. But there's also, you have a coach that coaches you through and sits with you every single week and talks about where you are, what challenges you have, what can we do to move you forward, how do we continue your growth and transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we call it a 4-month program, but I've had students that take 6 months to get through it, because think about something like radical acceptance. How difficult is that for some people? So the
It's
goal is
very,
to get through every
yeah.
module in a week, but if you need to sit with something for 2 weeks, or think about mindful communication. Our communication skills in our society are so out of that space of mindful doing, speaking from a place of love, listening with the intention to learn, all those things. So if you need
Right.
a couple weeks there, spend a couple weeks there. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really self-driven and self-paced. By the time we finish that program, and within that program, we also include that level 1 sound practitioner. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so by the time you finish that 4-month or so program, you get a certification as a sound practitioner, you get a certification as a yoga nidra instructor, but more than that, you get a transformational coaching certification and a meditation teacher certification. So there's a
Nice.
lot in that, and it's really powerful. And we've been working within that space for about 4 years. When I first started it, it was a 10-week program. And I kept listening to the students going through it. I need this, I need this, I need this. And so we keep adding more layers. And we just added the grief module into it this past year, as my mom passed away this past August. And
Oh, I hear that.
sitting in that space of grief, it empowered me and inspired me to write another module, because we all experience grief in our life. But the way I dealt with it as a practice, from a practice of mindfulness, was so different than the way I used to.
Yeah.
I used to try to outrun grief, right? And most of us do, by keeping myself busy and trying to, okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
Life goes on, life
Yeah.
goes on.
I'll put my mind on something else when really we need to be really immersed in it and just give it the space to be what it is.
So the shift, it was there, and then it inspires, like, wow, look how different it is when I allow myself to sit with it and not let it consume me, but let me ride the waves of the grief, instead of letting that grief pull me under, and then I have to swim my way back into the force. It pulls me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's really how the program's been developed, through my own transformation and through the inspiration and transformation of the other teachers that go through it. Yeah,
Fantastic.
that's what we do.
That's a mouthful.
And and that program is done mostly virtually.
Yeah.
We have mentors now all over the country, as I said, who will work with our students one-on-one if they are in that area. But most of the stuff we do online. And every week there's a workshop. Every week there's a one-on-one session with your coach. There's some reading materials. There's some meditations. And so it's really a transformational program. And I wish everybody would take it, but I know everybody can't take it or won't take it, but that's what it's all about.
Well, it is very much on my radar because I've had training in some of those areas. But one of the things I think I remember we had this conversation that I really loved about what you have is that it's all in one place.
Right.
There's so many different teachers teaching meditation, teaching mindfulness, teaching sound healing, but you are the only one. Meditate You and the School of Mindfulness has been the only one that I have found that was so comprehensive, and everything was very synergistically flowing into the other, where it could be just individually pieced out by itself, or it could be incorporated as an overall umbrella. And
Right.
for those who are called to be light workers or work in the natural healing modalities as we do, typically those who are drawn to that need this kind of umbrella. So even if they don't want all those pieces, it's there. They almost flow effortlessly into each other. So I think we already talked about that. That's very much on my radar. Hopefully, I work on that like really soon.
Yeah.
I'm always learning, always in school. So,
Yes.
um,
And you kind of hit the nail on the head is what I saw when I was studying the practice and getting into all these different, bringing all these different tools together. I couldn't find a program that engaged all of them at the same time. So I had to take
yeah.
a class over here and then I had to take a class over there. And it was disjointed. And I just said, I want to pull it all together. Then the other thing that I'm really focused on is bringing other voices into it because I know what my perception is and on my perspective on the practices, but I don't ever want to go in that space that says my way is the right way, and if you don't do it this way, it's wrong. No, that's dogma, right? That's just my so. This is my experience, and I share my experience, my transformation, and maybe that's
Hmm.
others. But I bring other voices. I have other teachers. I include videos and readings of some of the greats, some of the masters, some of the gurus out there, and listen to their perspective. And my overall goal is for our clients to understand that this is not a cookie cutter thing. There's not
Hmm.
size fits all. Everyone
Yes.
finds what resonates with them, and you might start learning a lesson on something that you don't like or you don't agree with. Okay, it's your program. Say, I don't want to study that. That's not really resonating with me. But you have it there in the future because it's going to
In
keep
the future.
so
Yes.
back to it. So we design
Yeah.
truly be fluid, and if you don't resonate with that piece, if yoga nidra doesn't make any sense to you, okay, then just put it aside. It's there for you if you ever want to take it.
Hmm.
It's found it
Hmm.
you're interested in, okay, but you have it there should you choose to reach
Should
into.
you choose to reach
Yeah.
in? Yes.
What we've done in the past year and a half is we took this whole program and put it online. So now it's all there, and it's all
Beautiful.
out in the same way we were doing it in the school, where you can do it at your own pace. It's really because I know when you go back to school as an adult and you have a job and you have kids and you have a family and you have responsibilities, how can you show up for school at the time they tell you to show up? And what happens if you have a wedding to go to or somebody, there's something bad happens in the family and you miss a couple of weeks of school? What do most schools say? Ah, sorry, right? No,
Sorry, that's not our problem.
no, it's like, okay, you missed that class. But here it's like, yeah, you didn't miss it. You just pick it up where you left it off, and we're here to support
Hmm. Hmm.
being real. And here it is what it's truly all about. We need to be real
Yeah.
instead of trying to fit
Hmm.
ourselves into other people's expectations.
Right, right. So I gotta ask for those who are online, if there are any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. I've tried to respond to a couple, mostly people saying that they're loving this conversation. So um, I do want to mention before we're going to be wrapping up in a few minutes that this is has been such an awesome read. This is a book by Bill, and it's called A Mindful Peace, The Hero's Journey. So much profound wisdom in this book. Can you please tell us about it?
Well, I'll tell
So,
you, when I was writing that book, it was really just telling my story and how I got into this space of mindfulness. And
mm-hmm,
the wisdom part of it is all the part, it's one of those trigger words that comes to me. It's like, who's telling me I'm wise? I'm just a regular guy who went through their life. But really, that's what the story is about is like, okay, we all if we don't see ourselves as the hero of our story, then that's just we're just going through our life the wrong way. There is one constant in our life, and it's us, and we should see ourselves as the hero. And if we watch any hero movie the heroes aren't perfect. When we open ourselves up to embrace the flaws and see those as opportunities to grow and move forward. So that's really what I really wanted to share was some of the stuff that I went through my whole life, but how I
mm-hmm,
actually reached that place where I said, this is my life, and I need to see
mm-hmm,
myself as the hero of the story and stop disconnecting from the expectation that other people are in control of my life or the things that
mm-hmm,
have happened in my life had made me who I am, and that's a bad thing. No, the things that
mm-hmm,
happened in my life made me who I am now, and it's a good thing.
mm-hmm.
I can rise above the negative and focus on the positive and shift my life. And
Right.
that was really it in a nutshell is how do we start seeing ourselves as the hero? And
Mm-hmm.
chapters in there when I first wrote them, it went down that rabbit hole of blame and the circumstances of my childhood.
Blame, shame, guilt, fear, that whole
Like,
circle.
wait, this doesn't belong in this book. That could be for somebody else's book, but it's not mine. So it was really in a mindful way of how I started waking myself up to the to take ownership of my life, and how meditation and the practices of mindfulness. And there's a chapter on gratitude. There's a chapter on acceptance. There's a chapter in that space that really shifted my life on how I looked at the whole religious practice and how
Mm-hmm.
so resistant to it because of the way I was raised and the messages that I got as a kid of in order to be accepted and to be loved, you have to check all these check marks and fit within this box.
Yes.
And I listened to those messages and I said, this isn't right. That's not right. So I resisted it. And then eventually I took a step back and said, you know what? I love a lot of the teachings. And if we listen to the teachings in so many religions, it goes back to the teaching of love. At the foundation
Mm-hmm.
of every
It
religion
is.
practice
It
somewhere
is.
love, right? But it gets messed up by people's opinions and people's dogma and all these rules and
And their expectations.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if we strip that away and we get back to the truth that we are all beings of love and that should be our religion. So that's really that space where it lifted me out of that space of
Mm-hmm.
religion, of resisting religion and embracing my own religion and the beauty in some of the teachings. And I did study religion for a while and I really loved so many of the teachings, but I didn't like the rules that were put on it. So that's where the journey goes in that book. And it really kind of goes through all the ins and outs of that.
Yeah, that chapter, Finding My Religion, was my favorite too, because there was so much there that resonated with me.
Good.
And I think that that's probably one of the most significant turning points of any human being's life is beginning to connect with the true self
Right.
and stripping away all the varnish, the paint, the layers, the shellac that is varnished and packed on to create a certain human being, a certain outcome. If you haven't checked all these boxes, you're just doomed, you know? And it never even resonated with me as a kid. I just was like, something about that ain't right. I didn't know what was wrong with it, but it just felt so ominous and dark and heavy. So, you know, as of course I've gotten older, I've learned differently. And even as an adult, there's still things that we cling to because they meet certain cultural and societal expectations that we've been brought up in or we've seen. And the probably most empowering thing for me and maybe many others was to be able to disassociate yourself from those things because those things are not you and you are not those things or those expectations. And being able to be okay with that. You know, there's a lot of fear or shame or guilt or whatever these emotions are, which are instilled into us very early to create a certain outcome. And once we are really able to look at that and say, I see you and I honor you that you're here, but no thank you, you know, then we kind of turn the corner, I think.
Exactly. It releases the things that were binding us down from being our true selves, right? And
Yes.
what it really moves us into, and it moves us out of that space of all the messages we got when we were growing up, all the messages we are still bombarded with in the media these days that say you need to look a certain way or act a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And what we tend to be striving for in those messages is striving for perfection. When the truth is, we've disconnected from the fact we are perfect ourselves because there's only one of us in all of the universe. There's only me who is exactly like me. And isn't that perfect because I'm the perfect version of myself? Now, you don't have to like me. It's okay. Go about your business. But this is me, and that is you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And when we can start to see that, I see you as a perfect being. It
Mm-hmm.
leaves that stuff, right? That
Yes. Yes. It
it
does. And it, oh,
differences that
sorry. Go ahead.
stronger, right? The differences that we have, because what makes the community? Everybody's different, right? I can't do everybody's job. There are people doing jobs that I would never do and I couldn't do because I'm not skilled in that area. And it's the community that makes my life better. So when we can see that everybody has a role to play and we get back to that truth that the universe put us here for a reason and we should connect to our passion and our truth and let our light shine and share that passion and truth. And that's what makes a community. And that's what brings
Yeah.
up the practice of oneness. And that is a religious practice in and of itself.
Yes, it is. It really is. And it also changes the trajectory of our life. It changes what we experience. It changes, it makes everything brighter or darker, just depending on what what perspective and what lens you're looking through.
Right?
So I feel like we could carry on this conversation for at least another hour or so.
We'll do it again.
But I, yeah, so I do want to recap and just mention that we will be hosting the Atlanta practitioner, sound healer practitioner course at the Yoga, Meditation, and Wellness Center in Lilburn. That would be August 21st. Do you have anything else coming up before then for those who might be in the Florida area?
My goodness, yes, we have this coming weekend. We're doing that level 1 training in Sarasota, um,
Okay.
and so that's the 2 days in Sarasota. Then we come back and we're doing let's see, we're doing a day retreat up in Stuart, Florida, the week after that. Fort Lauderdale, we're doing sound, that level 1 sound, the 7th and 8th of August, and then we'll be in Atlanta after that. And I see somebody asked if we do it online, and yes, if you go onto our website, it's www.meditateyou.me, and you look under the sound teacher certification. There's a description of what everything is on there and how you can take it. And it is self-paced. It is, as we were talking about earlier, that's really my thing is I want people to be able to do it at their own pace, to offer themselves that opportunity to, when we went to school the first time when we were kids and we reached a certain age, we crammed for tests, right? We knew this test was coming up. We didn't study for it. Well, at least I didn't. We would study for it the week of, and we'd cram all the information.
Cram it in, yeah.
We'd take the test, and then a couple days later, it's like forgotten. That's not what we want to do. We want to let it settle in. So we know in our practice of mindfulness and these wisdom practices, the intuitive practices that we teach, is the seeds of these things already exist in our heart. We just aren't nurturing them. We don't really connect to them. So what we do is we give you the information, which is starting to water those seeds. We're not giving you anything that you don't already have, but we're awakening that truth. And then we nurture them and nurture them and nurture them. And suddenly those seeds of mindfulness, the seeds of gratitude and love and compassion and forgiveness start to thrive.
Start to thrive, yeah, and grow.
Thrive within us. And so we don't want to, everybody learns differently. Everybody goes at their own pace. So that's really what it is all about, is you do it at your pace. There's no arbitrary deadline. There's no saying, and I see a lot of programs, and I've taken a lot of programs online that say you have to finish this course in 90 days and then you're dropped,
Yes,
right?
right.
Once somebody signs up for our course online or in person, you have lifetime access to that or as long as we keep the portal alive, which is going to be time around. So you have access to come back to it, because I also think as we move forward in our practices and we're sharing with different different nuances of the practice, perhaps we learned it, mindful communication, for instance. We study it, and then we're coaching our clients, and a question comes up, and it kind of trips us up. Well, we could go back and read those studies again and say, that's what this is about. So it gives you that refresher course if you ever need it, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. Definitely. And I will say also that the cost of the courses are so amazingly affordable. Like, that's the gift. I mean, the information and the love put into it is the gift, but the fact that you don't have to mortgage your home, take a second mortgage to pay for these courses is it's an extra bonus. So I really, really want to thank you for taking the time to answer all these questions and share with us and whoever is going to watch this your passion for healing and sound and just broadening the healing and wellness community, enlightening it with your passion and your gift. Was there something you want to add that maybe I didn't ask about, or if anyone has any questions, please go ahead and pop it in the chat.
No, I just want to add, if anybody has a question about any of the classes or courses that we have, if you visit our website, which I mentioned earlier, www.meditateyou.me, the answers would probably be there. But if they don't, there are consultation forms on there, so you just fill them out if you have any questions. And we would always schedule a free clarity call. So if we pick up a phone and say, I have some questions for Coach Bill, or I have some questions for one of our other teachers, just fill out that form and we'll get back in touch with you, and we'll schedule a clarity call, just because that's what it's all about. The other thing I mentioned about the cost. And cost is all relative. It depends on how much money you have, and some people might think it's expensive and some people don't. What I really want, I wanted to make sure the programs were accessible. because there are programs out there who teach what we do that'll cost $10,000, $12,000. I just think that's out of a lot of people's reach. And so again, it's all relative. There are some people that $2,000 is out of their reach, but we also offer payment plans. So
Mm-hmm.
if you don't if you can't jump in and pay that whole thing up front, we make payment arrangements and we can spread it out over over the length of the course that you're taking. And so again, we try to do everything we can to make it as accessible as we can, because going back to my passion is to teach and to share the wisdom and the transformation that I've discovered for myself and for the people that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
And the more people I teach and share this with, the more people are out there changing it.
Yes,
Because this is how we change the world, one person at a time.
one
Inspire,
at a time.
tap into
Mm-hmm.
that truth, right? So,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
so that's why I wanted to acknowledge that and mention it, because sometimes people hear about stuff like this and without even investigating, they might just say, "Oh, it's going to be out of my range. I'm not even going to look at it." But whenever I do the sound baths, I always get lots of questions. People who are curious just about what it's all about and how did you get to do this. I've always been curious, so I send them directly over to your website, because if it's a scenario where they can't join in person, they can at least take the course online.
Right.
But we're definitely looking forward to seeing you here in Atlanta in August 21st. Is really not that far out, like 4 weeks, I think, 3 or 4 weeks.
Right.
Thank you for the time. Anybody listening, please check out Bill and the courses and the instruments. You can also purchase bowls. And I mean, if you're in the Florida area, it's probably easier to just drive up to the Zen Mind Space in Fort Lauderdale.
Right.
But I believe you do ship stuff out of there too,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, depending on what it is. And the other thing is, I know you can go online and you can find prices on all this different stuff, but you don't know the quality, the value, and so that's the other thing is I'm here to do is like, okay, if you find something, send me a message and say what it is and say, is this quality? Would you buy it? I will be honest with you. And if it's a good price, I'll tell you, buy that sucker because that's a really good price, right? Or
Yeah,
we have
yeah,
other purveyors, other people that we've made contact with that might be able to beat that price or do it better.
yeah.
So when it comes to selling instruments, we're not in that as it's not really a part of our business, but we do
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
for students that go through our course. So again, it's all that there's so many unknowns when it comes to this practice, and to have somebody who has the knowledge and has the connections to understand if it's a quality piece, if it's worth that price, if it's overpriced or whatever, it's good to have that. So that's why we're also here for that. So answer
Yes.
questions out. That's what we do is we're answer questions for sure.
Yes,
Right.
it's very important, because sometimes you can buy a singing bowl that says it's an A and it gets to you and it's not an A,
Yeah.
and it's tuned to a completely different note, and it's just helpful. For me, I took my time getting the stuff and getting them from reputable sources. Had I connected with Bill before I got most of my instruments, I would undoubtedly have gotten a majority there, and I still pick up some stuff
Right.
from Florida. So I did want to mention that again. Thank you. Thanks to all who are still on the call, call video, whatever, who joined are still on, and those who will be watching this later. If you have comments or questions, you can reach us in the Atlanta area at Wellness Vibes Therapy on IG. Wellnessvibes.net is our website. We offer sound baths, one-on-one sound healing, massage therapy, skincare, and yoga classes. So we are all invested in the community's well-being, and we're really excited about this partnership with uh, the School of Mindfulness. So I'll be signing off now. Thank you again, Bill.
I'll see you in a few weeks.
Yeah, see you in a few weeks.
All right.
Everyone have a good day.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye. Well, thank you.
bye-bye. Thank you.